Good morning. I see that we have Chuck on. Welcome. How are you?
Wonderful. How is everybody this morning?
Good.
Good. Well, welcome. Thank you very much. What's that?
I was going to say I didn't hear anybody else. I said at least I'm good.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad you're here, everybody. Thank you very much. You know, we want to talk about some. You know, there's a saying that we run with here. It's you know, you sell by price, you die by price. I mean and we understand that obviously a lot of our sales conversations they are about money, and that's just kind of the necessary evil when it comes to sales in this industry. And we wanted to talk about some, you know, how do we set it up? You know, when I say we as you know, advisors, as agents, you know, how do we set it up to get out there and really bring value to the merchant or show them how we're bringing value? And, you know, Chad's put some things together he's going to talk about, and John and I will chime in as we always do. But, you know, we're not price salespeople. We're people who bring value. We consult with the merchant, and there's a way of doing that. And there's a way of doing that super effectively. And Chad's going to start talking about some things. And remember, if you sell by price, you die by it. So let's shift our mindsets a little bit and go, how can I bring so much value to the merchant that they would be crazy to make any other decision than go with me? So, Chad, I'm going to let you take it for a little bit, and then we'll kick around and do some Q&A towards the end.
Okay, guys. I think the main thing is what we need to do is first find out what's valuable to the merchant. I think everybody initially thinks, well, gosh, I want to save them money, and that's going to bring value to them. It may or it may not. But the process we use to do the discovery to find out what could really help this person out is the merchant tune-up sheet. And it's by asking a lot of questions and asking the second and third question to really get a good handle on what's important to that merchant. I know we had Mike on last week, and what he was doing is finding out how do I help them by saving them time instead of saving them money. How can I free up their schedule, because that's more valuable than saving them, you know, $100 a month. You know, if I can free up 20 hours out of their month, that's way more valuable. You know, some of the other things that we do that bring value in is we work with the Give Back program. But the whole key to finding out what's valuable to the merchant is by doing super good discovery and asking that second and third question as to find out how they do their processes, what would really help them out. And it's pretty straightforward. Is once you get a good handle on what they want, then you can go in and create the value, and we can put the system together, you know, to meet those needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we know what questions to ask?
Well, the merchant tune-up sheet we put together specifically for that. And has everybody on the call gone through the tutorial, the acceleration call we did on doing the merchant tune-up sheet and how to ask the questions?
Yes.
Well, and if there's questions,
hold on one second.
I mean, let me ask you guys. I mean, and I know a lot of you guys on the call already make a lot of money doing this deal. And some of you guys are newer, and some of you guys haven't had a whole lot of experience yet. But what is truly, I think the first thing is, what's your objective here? I mean, does everybody here want to be, you know, make professional money doing this and be successful doing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I mean, I'd hope that's what you want, or you're crazy to invest your time, you know, here if that's not what you want, or crazy to invest your time anywhere. But one of the key things I think is I know John used to tell me all the time when I was really young in this deal, he goes, preparedness meeting opportunity equals success. One of the first things you want to do is obviously we're going to identify our targets and our verticals or however we want to approach this. But number two is really understand that merchant tune-up sheet. And if you don't understand it, get with your agent director and go, okay. Because do you guys all want to bring value to your merchant? Would you rather bring more value and make more money on the deal or just give the pricing away and not make money doing it?
I think that's a good point. It's John Eliason. Chuck, I think this is a good way to start the call right there, because we launched into this call assuming that you don't want to sell on price. But when it comes down to it, most everybody in the world ends up sells on price. They immediately dive into it. So why would we even talk? And Chuck's making the point now. Why would we even invest our time this morning talking about this subject? What is the bottom line? Maybe we should make the point about it first. Like what's the value of selling on value rather than price? Why don't you just go out and tell everybody, because that's what our competition does. All of our competition just goes out and sells it cheap. Hey, our rate's cheaper, our rate's cheaper, our rate's. That's all they sell. That's all they do. So why would we not want to do that? And why would we want to sell on price? And what does that mean, sell on price, die on price? Everybody else is making $1 million on it. Why shouldn't we?
Well, what you find is they're not making $1 million. It might look like it, but they're not. And, we have merchants that, fall off sometimes because they're getting sold on price, and they come back because they exactly what it was. Like, look, it wasn't what I thought. It was junk. I'm coming back, and they're apologetic, and they're this and that. So it's not just us coming up with this. We're hearing this from the merchant. The customer saying, yeah. If anybody can make a weak decision in a weak moment, I get that. But establish the relationships right so you can make that $1 million. And that's only by bringing value. So think about that from the merchant tune-up sheet. Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
Well, let me throw in too. When you sell by price, you're really, if you kind of take a step back about it, like Chuck asked a great question. Why are you even doing this? So if you want to go out and there's money in money, so you're in the right industry. There's residuals. If you can figure out how to stack a whole bunch on, like a lot of guys in this call have and gals, you can get financially free. You can, which might not mean you're making $1 million, but you're making a whole hell of a lot of probably more money than you made before, and you don't have to work that much to maintain it. But it's not by selling on cheap. If all you do is give everything away, you can never get free. So if you go in there and you're conditioning people to buy on price, so the next person that comes in that looks cheaper than you, well, you've just instructed your client to go with them because that's the only reason they went with you. So how do you build value in this relationship? And because if you build value, like Chuck's talking about, if you give tremendous value, then you can charge more money, and you can charge more money because you've given more value and they appreciate you more. And they'll stay with you longer because they figure you know what you're doing, because you actually ask them the right questions that all these other schmucks that sell on price never ask. So it's this upward spiral of profit and keeping your merchants longer, as opposed to making no money and selling them ongoing with the next person that comes in cheaper. So that's really, I think, what we're talking about today. Having seen it with thousands and thousands of merchants over decades, it goes one way or the other. And so if you can figure out how to sell more in value, like we're talking about today, it literally means in your life that you're living today, it can mean a huge difference. That I know Chad's living it, Chuck's living it, John's living it, a lot of other guys on this call are, and we do not do business like most people. This is a not business as usual place, but we're here to do something that's unusual that you can't get most places. And one of the cornerstones there is selling on value and not price. And that's what I think, anyway, from what I've seen. Whether I think it doesn't matter. What I've seen is this thing is huge that we're talking about today, and it can mean a huge difference in your world. Anyway, thank you.
I think probably
Chad, you still there?
the way to illustrate that is really just by going through a couple different examples. Cam, are you on the call today? Hello?
Hello?
No Cam today.
No Cam today.
No Cam today? Okay. I know he was trying to call in, but about a month ago he had an optometrist he was working with, and there were three things that really helped the guy out. And it came down to not doing anything with the price whatsoever. But the guy needed a system that could manage his employees because he's got 4 or 5 gals that come in and work in the office. Right now he was paying over $50 a month just to have a time clock in there and run that software. He needed to be able to figure out his scheduling for his appointments. And and the third thing was his inventory of eyeglasses, what was in stock and what wasn't. And what ended up happening was we put a system in for the guy to do those three things, and we didn't have to do anything with the price of the processing whatsoever. So, I think there was about $150 of profit in there when we started, and when we left, it was right about the same. So not having to give up a single penny on the profitability of the account, and the merchant has everything they want to run their business.
So how do you do that? What can you give a little more detail on? Okay, so you went in, talked to the merchant, and obviously he was there because he has a pretty solid joint venture relationship with someone this merchant does business with. And can you give us an idea of how the conversation went?
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm having a really hard time hearing on my cell phone, but I think I got the gist of it.
We had storms here last night, everybody, so bad that it knocked out our phone system, so we're all calling in from our cell phones. So it's a little hard to hear on our end, so we apologize.
Basically, what happened is this was a referral actually from another doctor, and so it wasn't just calling out of a list. And what happened is he drove over there and sat down with the guy, and he scheduled a half-hour appointment to meet with him so that they could go through how the business systems work, basically it came down to he could probably go and run the cash register at the place by the time he got done with it, because he's going, how do you do your accounting? How do you do, what's the process of scheduling an appointment, making the sale? How does your insurance billing work? Basically, he found out the insides and outsides of how that practice runs its system. And in doing so, he uncovered some areas of where we could improve, or where we have a solution that would fit into those areas. So when we came back and presented on that one, he presented two Clover minis, one for where they take the eye exams, and one for the eyewear area where they actually sell the glasses. They showed them, okay, here's how we can manage your time clock. Here's how you can manage your employees' schedules. Here's the part where we can manage your appointments and your patients coming in, and showed them those two parts, and then also how he could put inventory in there. So if somebody wanted to buy, some specific designer glasses that they had in stock, they had those right in the system and could pull them up right away and sell them. And then they know what they're, how many thousands of dollars they're holding in inventory, what's selling well, what's not, rather than trying to eyeball the shelves and go, oh, we're getting low on these, or man, we've been holding on to these other ones forever. And so those key aspects of where time was getting consumed in the optometrist business, the manager of the practice was just elated to know, hey, there's 10 hours a week that gets freed up of my time. And a lot of times in those things, what the practice manager wants is what the practice manager gets. So between the doctor and and the gal that runs the office, going in and presenting a solution that frees up time for them and does some of these components of their business automatically is how we were able to hold the same margin and not say, hey, we're going to do it cheaper. We came in, we're going to do it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
You see how you can do some of those same things with the businesses that you're going out and seeing each day, and put that into practice for yourself.
Well, and I think too, guys, if you're not sure, call in, talk to your agent director to look. What are some things? Because the beauty of what we do, and I know I'm only speaking for me here, but what I love about this industry is that I don't deal with just one particular type of customer. I deal with such a cross section of different industry types, different merchant types, the whole bit. I mean, you name it, from someone selling widgets out of their basement on their website to I'm working with a company now that sells switches that go into your iPhones, and then you work with a company that sells car. I mean, you get everything. And it's sometimes hard to understand, like, well, where can I bring value to this merchant, because I don't even understand their industry. I don't understand the car industry. What am I going to talk to them about? And I think, like any rapport relationship building, I think number one is if I don't know about it, I better at least act like I'm real interested in learning about it so I can get them to talk with me. And then what you'll see is a lot of these merchants' concerns, they're parallel regardless of what industry. And you hear maybe problems that a company that you work with is having, and then you find out from a friend who works in another company, they go, man, we have the same problems you do. So find out about it, and then how you bring value is you bring in solutions, you make recommendations, you show them how we can eliminate some of the issues they may be having. So if you're not sure where to take it, call your agent director. If your agent director doesn't know, they're going to get you on the phone with someone who does. And let's find ways of getting in, learning their business. And I remember when I was just like you guys, and John can attest. I was out in the field running around, writing all these deals, and I remember like clockwork, John would call me an hour after my appointment date. So if my appointment was at 2 o'clock, my phone would be ringing at 3. And I would say probably 80 to 90% of the time, I was still with the merchant. I couldn't take the call. And then I'd call a half hour later. It's like, what took so long? They go, man, I'm learning their business. And I always felt that I wanted to leave that merchant, and I wanted to know so much about their business, I literally could start one just like it tomorrow, because I knew so much about it. And when you learn that much about their business, you see where their trips are and their things that they're struggling with. And with more and more experience in this industry, you can come up with solutions for them. And sometimes the value is not what I did with their merchant account. Maybe the value is with, like, you know what, I worked with another company and here's some marketing strategies they did. Oh, we never thought of that. And I bring value that way, because the value is you. So the more well-rounded you are and the more value you can bring to them, the more likely they are to do business with you. Does that make sense? It doesn't? Okay. Well,
Yep.
I can articulate.
Absolutely, it does.
Sometimes. Yeah, you want to be the go-to person, not just in the merchant, just in general. So really well-round yourself and listen to what the merchants are telling you, and really bring that value to them. So anyway, we're going to open it up for some questions. I know it's awfully conceptual sometimes on some of the stuff we talk about and how to bring it, and probably how to articulate it. But what are some hurdles or some struggles that you're running into now that you need help getting around? None? Everybody's doing just fine? Are we on track to make $1 million? Go ahead.
This is Richard from Ohio.
Hey, Richard.
I'm just getting started with First Financial. And
Thank
how
you.
important is the Clover video in your sales presentation?
Well, I think it's, obviously it really depends on, your audience. I would say today, 95% of the merchants that we work with would benefit from the Clover, whether it be from the perspective of just having the Clover Mini that they're just running like a regular terminal because it's E&B ready, to a merchant that has more things going on. We have a lot of people who sell the Clover without the video. I know Mike brought up last week, and how he does it is beautiful. It works really well. He gets a lot of traction with it.
Right, I heard that.
Yeah, and he plays it on his laptop or on his iPad. I don't recall. I guess if you're in a position where you can, with your laptop or an iPad, show them the Clover video. People like to see things. That's why they make you test drive the car before you buy it. So if you can do it that way, great. Not everybody has that at their disposal. So there is printed material that you can take with you. But I think, again, kind of what we started talking about in the call is definitely use the merchant tune-up sheet and ask the right questions so you know what the needs are and you can present the value of the Clover, because it really has, the Clover, and we've moved a lot of Clovers, guys. A lot of advisors are out there selling a lot of them. And the feedback we're getting from the merchant is phenomenal.
Good.
I would always present the Clover.
I've learned a lot this morning. Present the Clover and talk more about value with this merchant tune-up sheet. And I'm raring to go.
All right. Well, I love it.
I haven't had a sale yet, but I'm trying awful hard. And I have a whole list of merchants that I'm going to begin to see now.
Good. Well, you know what? Get with your agent director. Make sure you have the right strategy in place to go out and see them. So
correct.
We appreciate you coming and being on the team. So
good.
We'll do what we can to help you get out there. Excellent.
Yeah.
Any other questions? What's that?
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you.
It would be. I'm thinking to have the video loaded onto my laptop when I go make the appointment would be the best way, or just I don't have a tablet, but a phone would probably be too small.
Right, probably, but I think, like you said, you're loading it up on your laptop. I think that's the right. I don't think I know. Because you know how people buy. People want to see things. That's just the way it goes. And I don't. And Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but can you think of many scenarios where you wouldn't present Clover? Maybe a small, small, very few. Yeah. So yeah, definitely use that. And it's out there. It's nicely done. I think you should use every resource you have available to you. Excellent. Any other questions before we go today?
You were talking about, if I might just follow up, you were talking about acting, either knowing about the business or being real curious about their business, and using your agency manager, before you've got an appointment with, say, like I've got one coming up with a veterinarian. I talk to my agent manager and say, hey, have you got any experience with this? What needs do I need to be looking for?
Well, I think it's always a good idea, especially if you're new.
I'm new.
Okay, well, I would definitely brainstorm with my agent director and go, look, all right, I'm going to see this veterinarian, because here's some things I'm going to ask you. Let's say I'm your agent director, okay? I go, well, how do you know the merchant?
I do business with it.
Okay, so you have pets that you take to this merchant?
Yep.
Okay. Those are the best ones to go to, because you spend your hard-earned money in his establishment, right?
Right.
Okay. So does he know you're coming today?
It's later this week, but yes.
Or whenever. So he knows you're coming. He knows why you're in there.
Yep.
And so the nice thing about this is you kind of know how he does business already. So when you leave, you check out at the counter, right?
Right.
Okay. So do you know what kind of equipment he's using?
Not
yet. Like a
not
terminal?
Yet.
Okay.
Not.
So And so here's things I would ask in those types of deals. I go, do you guys do any billing like over the phone? Do people always pay their tab up front? I want to find out billing stuff. And veterinary clinics are hit hard from their suppliers. These guys are bombarded. I did a joint venture with a company that did nothing but veterinary clinics. And these guys are definitely hit hard from, everybody and their brothers trying to sell veterinary supplies. So I would relate to that. And I'd go, man, I hear it. I know you guys are hit up. I know whatever. Let me ask you. And I'd ask about their billing. And that one's pretty simple. It's like a dental office. Not everybody pays the balance up front. Do you carry balances on folks? How do you get that money later? How does that work for you? Find out how the billing works for them. And he might go, look, if they can't pay, we don't do the work. Okay, great. Then that makes it simple. Or they go, well, we have a client that, I go out because I also work on horses, so I go out and I take his credit card while I'm there, so I call it in before I do the work. Find out about his deal. Because, Matt, who goes and works on farm animals? Veterinarians. But they don't do it if, you don't drag your horse into the veterinarian. So find out about his deal. So how do you bill them? Do you have something that you carry with you that you swipe through? How much of your volume comes from that, and how much of it is just retail? Oh, it's about 50-50. Well, you do $30,000 a month. Let me ask you, would it help you to have something you could attach to your phone to swipe the transaction there instead of having to call it in or bring it back and key it in later? Find out how he does his business. That's the key. Is find out how credit cards relate in his business. Is it all retail? Does he do some house calls? A lot of veterinarians do house calls, which I didn't realize that, but a lot of them do house calls. How does that work? So find that out. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd ask him if he's selling any products online. That'd be my last thing. Because a lot of veterinarians will do that. Like if you want your heartworm medication, what they'll do is they'll go, look, you don't have to come in. Just you can order it online. So I'd ask him if he does any of that. And then is he getting into collars, leashes, that kind of thing online? Because they try to create this community. Veterinarians, if he's, and it depends on what level he's at. I don't know. But I would be asking him, or I'd recommend it. Go, hey, have you ever thought about, like if people need refills and that kind of thing? Because pets are on medication too. I know people that spend thousands of dollars to keep their cats alive. And I'm not a cat lover, so I don't understand. If I had a dog, I'm
not a cat lover either. But this is John Eliza. We ended up with a stray cat like a couple of years ago, and a week later, we were going on vacation, and it's like, oh, I didn't know, what do we do with this cat? And, of course, it was this little kitten, stray cat that showed up after a storm. We seem to have a lot of those in the summer. And we found it, and, of course, my kids named it and fed it, and then, of course, now we own a cat. But it's like, we this 1 week we didn't have a cat. The next week we spent like $1,300 on shots. And a condo, that's what they call it. And we can see the cat online. It's wonderful. But good Lord, it's amazing how much cats cost.
Yeah, it is. But there's a great example, of and those are stories. Stories always were great. I love stories, and you can get a lot of great stories from merchants that you can share with other merchants. So I'd get stories, and find out, what do people do? Because I had a friend that she had a cat, and the cat had like liver problems, right? And she was like spending like $600 a month in medication for her cat. And I go, well, how do you get that? She goes, well, I got to go in every month and get it. Why wouldn't you just log on online and order it and they can ship it to you? She goes, oh, yeah, I never, and I go, you should call your vet clinic. That's ridiculous. So find out what they're doing, what's going on. Bring some recommendations to the table. Go, how do you do it? And stories, man, you got to get stories. And I tell you what, I knew John hit a whole new level when he came in one day and we were talking. He's like, I spent $1,300 on this damn cat. And I was like, what? John has always been adamant. John has always been adamant about not having animals. Because his youngest has wanted the dog since like day one, and John refuses, but he replaced it with the cat. So there you have it.
The cat, I guess it was meant to be. The cat, in fact, it stumbled out of the dark. He found it. It's like, oh, God, no, here we go.
Here you go.
But they're expensive to the point, though, and it's a great story. Even if I was talking to a veterinarian, I'd use the story. Like Chuck said, stories are fantastic, and we all learn from them. Everybody gets a smile, and it's like, and everybody knows. It's like anybody with any experience knows, like, oh man, isn't that the truth? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But it brings some levity to the sales scenario, and it helps you. It humanizes too. You connect and all those good things, and that's what sells as much as. And the whole topic of this conversation is selling on value, and value is bringing something. Value can even just be bringing a story that tells the veterinarian or the merchant, whomever the merchant is, in this case the veterinarian, that you understand that you're human too, and you live and you have these same experiences that they have. As opposed to just somebody that they're so used to people coming in and trying to shove something down their throat or hoodwink them on something. You're coming in and you're being human. You're asking to let Chuck said find out about their business because, boy, what the best question I ever asked is, how did you get into this? How does this fit in? Where do you want to go? And that will unlock everything. It'll tell you everything that you need to know, and then you just slide what you have to help them get what they want, whether it's more time or something online. And you slide in a cat story now again, and
right.
Olay. That's how you make more money than any sales guy, all your competition, because your competition doesn't do fun stuff like that. They come in and try to hit them with a low rate and a big lease, and that's how they make their money. They don't make residuals, most of them, and so they've got to trick them up front. And you're coming up with something different where you're going. You have a different motivation than your competition. You're building value in your portfolio by giving value, by providing value to your clients. And it's a way to build an asset rather than have a job. And it's a way to be a consultant rather than a salesman. It's a way to be professional rather than a transient, in a sales gig. And it's all those things. That's why you want to do it that way.
Absolutely. Stories are great. Use the hell out of them. People love stories anyway. Well, people love stories.
That's a great quote. Stories are great. Use the hell out of them. In fact, there could be a story about Chuck saying that line, but it's so true.
It's so true. I love stories. You love hearing people's stories. And the best ones for your industry are the ones you're going to get from merchants, really. Get merchant stories. They want to hear about other merchants too. So, good question. Any other questions? No? All right. We're halfway through the month. In the month strong. The only way to do better in this, my dad always told me growing up, he says, if you're going to get in sales, which he advised me against it, and I didn't listen very well, and I'm glad I didn't. He goes, but stack them on like cordwood. Just stack them on. You got to get that mindset going, build those relationships, build that rapport, and then just stack them on. And you'll wake up one day, your head will be down, you'll be jamming, you'll be working hard, you're just engrossed in it, and you don't know where you're at, and you wake up one day and go, man, my residuals just tapped $5,000 this month. Then you celebrate a little bit, a couple bottles of wine or a night out or a trip or whatever. Then you just put the head back down, you keep going. You wake up one day and go, man, I'm at 10. And man, if I can do 10, I can do 20. And just build that machine to get yourselves there. And I guess you trust me when I tell you, your life is a lot different at that level, and or whatever level that you want it to be. So if there's no other questions next week, we'll roll out the topic probably Wednesday or Thursday. We'll shoot out an email. You know what? Also, if you have any recommendations on topics that you want us to go through, some of you guys, I get it. You don't want to talk on a conference call. I understand that. Not everybody's comfortable with that. But if you have something you're struggling with, you need help with, email your agent director and go, hey, guys, talk about this on Monday. I'm really struggling with this. I want your opinion, or I want the lowdown, or I want to hear from other folks, or whatever. Send it in and let us know. We give you what we think we need to give you to help you the most, but maybe we're missing something. So email your agent director if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, and we'll do our best to give you the best we've got. All right? Fair enough?
Exactly.
Fair enough.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take care,
have
guys.
a great week. We'll talk to you next week. You too now. Bye-bye.